Okay. Nun Gimel on the base. 53. 53 B. Adam, does this mean we're on YouTube? Let me see. Yeah, that means we're on YouTube, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Max, for setting everything up. Okay, continuing the Gemara on 53b. 53b 1. Tana Rabbana on the right side. Imashma Shenema. This Gemara is continuing on the pasuk. We said in the Mishnah said that when they left the Beit HaMikdash, the people turned back to the Beit HaMikdash. They didn't leave with their backs to the Beit HaMikdash. They left, they turned around. Like a lot of times you see when a person leaves the synagogue, they turn around. They don't want to leave the synagogue with their back facing the synagogue. Rather, they walk out this way of the synagogue. Correct? You see people do that? Morning, Ralph. How are you?
Morning, Rabbi. Okay.
And the Mishnah stated before that when they left the synagogue, they said certain things when they stepped back. And what was the thing that they said? They said that, our eyes are to Hashem. Well, let's take a look at the language of the Gemara. Okay, let's take again. We are on 53b. It says the Kohanim. It says a second. Tana Rabbanan. Mimashma shenema. The pasuk says Upneim Kedma. The pasuk said. You see, let's go back again to the Mishnah. The Mishnah said when the Kohanim reached, good morning, David, when the Kohanim reached the eastern gate, because remember, they went in, the Beit HaMikdash went from east to west. So the more you're going in, you're going, the western side is deep in, the Kodesh HaKadoshim or whatever, or the holy, the further you went towards the west, the further holiness you went towards, closer and closer to more holiness, holy areas, right? And so when the Kohanim left the Beit HaMikdash, when they reached the eastern gate, what they says the following: when they reached the eastern gate, they turned their faces from east to west, and they made a statement. They said, Avotenu, our forefathers, our ancestors, not forefathers, it means our ancestors, Kohanim that were before us, during the second Beit HaMikdash, here, so it says, the Kohanim that were before us, Shahayu b'mokom hazeh, the Kohanim that were before us, that were in this place, Kisha achareim elahechel, when they had their backs to the Heichal, instead of having, so if the Heichal, let's say this is the Heichal, this is the back to the Heichal, right? We don't consider this, me standing here disrespectful. I'm standing here to give the class. My back is to the Heichal. So when they walked out with their backs to the Heichal, and their faces, they were facing eastward, and they would bow down to the sun, which that was a sign of these are part of the Jewish community that was in the first Beit HaMikdash. They actually served the sun as an idol. and they turned their back to the Beit HaMikdash as a sign of degradation, of non-respect, and they would bow down to the sun. We know the first Beit HaMikdash, what was one of the reasons why the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed? Because of what? Avodah Zarah. The first Beit HaMikdash, the problem of the Jewish community was Gila Rayal, Shvichas Damim, Avodah Zarah. There was immoral relationships. People have relationships with women that they were forbidden to. There was murder that was going on, and not that everybody was murdering, but there was too much murder going on, and there was also too much idol worship going on in the first Beit HaMikdash. And you had people, you had the Kohanim themselves, or members of maybe not the Kohanim, maybe members of the Jewish community, because they would actually when they would leave the Beit HaMikdash, they went to the Beit HaMikdash. So it's like an amazing thing. They were in the Beit HaMikdash, and what did they do? They come out of the Beit HaMikdash, and what did they do? They bowed down to the sun. They were, maybe in a certain sense, they worshiped God, and they worshiped Avodah Zarah. They were. That was what. Now we don't understand the great temptation that was in those days for idol worship. We don't understand people. You want to send to the group that want to take a rest. We don't understand the temptation for idol worship, and the reason for that is because the rabbis prayed to Hashem, to God, to remove the temptation for idol worship. It was such a big problem that we had, and so that's why we don't understand that desire. But that was a problem that was prevalent in the first Beit HaMikdash, and look what they actually did, and that they actually would go out. They could have easily turned around, but they specifically did not turn around without having respect. So, like, funny, you come to the Beit HaMikdash and you disrespect the Beit HaMikdash, and yet you come there, and then they worship idols. So now, with that backdrop, so our Gemara says the following. The Gemara says, and what did the people later on, the Kohanim later on, or the Jewish community later on, they wanted to show that we got much better. We don't do that anymore. And what did they do? They said when they left, they did the total opposite. They turned around when they left. So therefore they left, it was like they were leaving like this. Like you see some people walk out of the shul like that, right? They left like that, and they said, and they made a statement. Anu. So one opinion says, they said, Anu us Jewish people, leka einenu. Our eyes are to God. Meaning to say that we look towards Hashem, we believe in Hashem, we respect Hashem. Rabbi Yehuda said that they said a double language. Yehuda they said, Anu leka, we are to God, and leka einenu, and our eyes are to God. And it seems like a double, repetitive. We are to God and our eyes to God. So that was this agreement. Exactly what did the people say? But they were very respectful, and they were saying, we pledge our allegiance to Hashem, in contrast to our ancestors that were here, that they actually had their back to Hashem, and they actually walked. They walked with their back out, and they worshiped idols, and we are the opposite. Is that clear, everybody? Okay, so this is a beautiful thing that the later generation was better than the earlier generation. So I would say the first temple is when they had the problem, and I would suggest that maybe this was what happened in the second temple when they didn't have this problem of idol worship, and they contrasted themselves. That's what I would suggest. And like saying, our ancestors, like the earlier generations, the Jewish people that came here acted a certain way, but we acting different. We are acting different in how we we talk to when we leave, and how we leave with great respect. So with that, the Gemara now brings a Braita that discusses this issue. Now, the statement that they said that we are to Hashem. So now, sorry. There's a pasuk in Yecheskel. There's a verse in Yecheskel, which Yecheskel was a Navi. He prophesied. He was during the time of the he's right after the destruction. We find him in the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, and he was in Bavel, and he says, where Yecheskel, we have to look back in Yecheskel for the timeline of Yecheskel, but he was talking about what happened in the first Beit HaMikdash, how the people, what they did in the first Beit HaMikdash. And what does Yecheskel say? Tarabana. Mimashma shenema, Yecheskel says, it says in the pasuk, upnehem kedma. Their faces, they were facing eastward. Eini yodea, if you're facing eastward, eini yodea she'achareim el heichal Hashem. Don't we know that your back is to the heichal? Because if we know, if remember, the way the Beit HaMikdash was, you went east to west. So if you go east to west, if you're facing eastward, that means the heichal is in the west. Is that clear? The heichal, where the menorah is, where the aron is, with that area, the makom hamikdash, the place of mikdash is in the west, and so you go east to west. So the pasuk says that they were facing eastward. That means you're facing eastward. That means you're going out. Is that correct? If you're going out, so of course your back is to the west. Is that correct, David? So why does the Navi have to say, "Eni yodea she'achareim el heichal Hashem"? So we know that their back is to the heichal. If you're going eastward and the heichal is in the west, so why does the pasuk say in Yecheskel? The pasuk says in Yecheskel that their back achareim el heichal Hashem. Why does the pasuk have to say that their back was facing westward? So the Gemara says because the Navi is saying that they specifically went back. They specifically went and they went to the bathroom, so to speak, facing the Mokam HaMikdash. Malamed shehayu porin atzmon, they would uncover themselves, masrizin klape mata, and they would go ahead and they would go to the bathroom facing, like in a certain sense, like towards God. Going to the bathroom, towards God, it's a great disgrace that they did against. So you know what it was like? It was these people that came to the Mikdash. These people had no. It was just a show. There was no heart. It was and it shows you how they disgraced. It's not only that they worshipped idols, they actually disgraced God. It's not like they worship both. We see from the Gemara. It would seem like they just went through the motions of some sort of going to the Beit HaMikdash culturally, or whatever you want to say, whatever the story was. But these people they acted in that way. So now, the Gemara continues and it says, "Anu laka einenu." They said, we are to Hashem, and to Hashem is our eyes. Now, which seems to be it seems to be a double language, right? You see, we are to Hashem, and to Hashem our eyes. And the question the Gemara is going to be bothered by, you're not supposed to say Shema, Shema. Let's say when you say the Shema, you're not supposed to say Shema, Shema, or Modim, Modim. Because let's say Modim, we recognize you, we thank you, So if you say modim twice, it sounds like you're talking to two different entities, deities, if that's the right word. Modim and modim. We thank you, we recognize you, and modim, we recognize you. Or shema, or shema, shema. If you say shema, shema, also sounds like you're reaching out to two. So the Gemara says, maybe we'll get out the Shulchan Aruch on that. This is unrelated to the portion above it. So the Gemara is going to say, if you say we are to God and I are to God, are you talking about two different? If you're saying the same thing twice, it sounds like you are talking to two different gods. Because if you, so that's what the Gemara is going to be bothered by. So if you look in Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Samach Aleph, Sif Tes, yeah, but I need the Dodi with Dodi Li. It's true. I am to my beloved, beloved is to me. It's not saying the same thing twice.
Same people above.
No. These are the good people. These are the people that they said they contrasted themselves with the previous generation. The previous generation, they were against God. We, so Gemara has a question. Why should they say the same thing twice? And it has an appearance, like it says in Shulchan Aruch, that when you say slichot in the morning, if they say the pasuk Shema Yisrael twice, tell them not to do that. They shouldn't repeat the pasuk of Shema Yisrael twice. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Now, if we look at more about that, let's see. So let's see the language of the Gemara. The Gemara says, so it sounds like you're talking about, if you say it twice, it sounds like you're referring to there's two deities, two gods that you're referring to. He's our God, right? So the Gemara says, Amy, is this so? Is this appropriate? Well, Amar Rav Zera said, Kol ha'omer shma shma, anybody who says shma shma, ki'ilu omer modim modim. It's like he's saying the modim twice. In the same way you understand, you shouldn't say modim twice, because it looks like you're bowing down to two different gods. So too, you shouldn't say Shema Shema twice. The Shulchan Aruch says it's referring to saying the pasuk of Shema Shema twice. So the Gemara's question is, how is it appropriate? How is it appropriate to say these words? We are to God, and God is our eyes. Right? If you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, here is Hashem is our God. They say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. What, you talking about another God? Two different gods? Or Modim, Modim. So therefore, we don't do things that have a bad appearance, that looks bad, or gives people the wrong understanding that might look like the Gemara says that if a person would do this, we would tell him to be quiet. Don't, we shatkin oto. So don't say that. That's not appropriate. Even though you don't mean bad, but we can't give people room to come to a wrong understanding. Adam, is that clear? So the Gemara says, so how did they do that over here? So the Gemara answers, Elahachi Amri. This is what they're saying when they said the Mishnah. This is what they said. Hema mishtachavim kedma. Our ancestors, they bow down eastward. They bow down to the sun. The sun comes out where? In the east, right? That's why it's called, the east is called Mizrach. Why is the east called Mizrach? It's a beautiful idea, right, David? What word do you have in the word Mizrach? Zarach. What is Zarach? To shine. The sun shines in the what? The east. Therefore, it's called east, right? And Ma'arav, the evening is Ma'arav, which is the evening, right? The Ma'ariv, we'd have a Ma'ariv. Ma'ariv is the evening, where you have the word Erev, and the west, that's when the sun is down. So therefore, it's called Ma'arav. When referring to the evening, it's Ma'arav because it's in the west, the sun. So what did they say? They said our ancestors, they bow down to the sun, but Anu Laka, we bow down to Hashem, not to idols, not to the sun. And not only we bow down to Hashem, ve'enenu leka miachalos. This is what they said. They said a little bit a longer version than what the Mishnah stated. They said two ideas. Number one, we bow down to who? To Hashem. And not only we bow down to Hashem, we are looking toward Hashem for his continued help and salvation. So therefore, it's not a repetition. If it would be a repetition like Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Echad, Modim, Modim, you're saying the same thing twice. It looks like you're talking to two entities, to deities, whatever the right words are. But when you say two different ideas, it's not no issue. So therefore, since you're saying, number one, we bow down to Hashem. Not only we bow down to Hashem, meaning we pay our respects to Hashem. Not only we pay our respects to Hashem, we're looking towards Hashem for a salvation and therefore it does not look like you're accepting upon yourself two different powers, and therefore it's not a problem. So that's what the Gemara amended what was said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah was in a short form, or it's possible. I mean, that's the language of the Gemara. Hachi Amri. This is what they said. Okay. Now we're going to get to a very interesting Mishnah. Yes.
The people who said under the power,
Yes.
they were living in the generation after.
I would suggest that they're living in the second Beit HaMikdash time. They're in the second Beit HaMikdash time, and this is what they said during the second Beit HaMikdash time.
It wasn't as though they were around those who were defecating.
Right, because remember, right, they said Avotenu, our ancestors. I mean, they're not living at that same period. They're contrasting their themselves to their ancestors. And I would say most probably, listen, if they would have been living during the time of the first Beit HaMikdash, that means that Jewish people would have repented from idol worship, and therefore it would not have been a
Not everyone who entered the Beit HaMikdash.
right. That's true.
I mean,
They weren't. These people were actually, they walked out on their own 2 feet, because it says they walked out with their face to the Heichal, and they did this type of act in a non-proper act, and it doesn't say anything. And that was Avotenu. This was a daily type of situation. That, see, worshiping idols, most probably we think about worshiping idols. Okay, they worship idols. But worshiping idols means you go. It's not just worshiping idols. It means they were going against God. This is my God and not God. That's what the worshiping idol. It wasn't a dual. We see from the Mishnah, it wasn't they worship God and idols. At least these people. Because if you worship God and idols, how could you go ahead and act so inappropriately and in your face type of thing and act so immodest? So that's that is what it would seem to me. If you see any commentaries, comment more on that timeline of when they, the Mishnah, because remember, the Mishnah that's written in front of us, organized by Yehuda Nasi, carries with the time periods of the second Beit HaMikdash and post the second Beit HaMikdash. You know what I'm saying? It carries in all different time periods. You know what I'm saying? Now, that's why, remember, there's an argument what they said in the Mikdash. So if they were living during the second, they would have known what they said. So this seems to be talking about the second Beit HaMikdash. This is what they said, and there's an argument exactly what was the exact text language they said. Okay, we are on 53b2. Okay, now we're going to go into, we discussed earlier regarding the amazing Simchat Beit HaShoeva, Nun Gimel Amabet, the amazing Simchat Beit HaShoeva that they had. By the way, even though we said that the Shulchan Aruch says, Moron HaMachaber says, if people by Slichot and Yom Kippur, honor of Eliyahu, right? Chazan, and Slichot and Yom Kippur, for people that say Yom Slichot and on Yom Kippur by Tfilat Nilah, if they say Shema Yisrael twice, if they say Shema Yisrael Hashem 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 Echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad, if they say it twice, you train them not to say it. That's what we had that halacha. We train them. We tell them Yesha Lamdam. We train them not to say. Don't repeat it. But it will be fine. But if you're not doing it one time right after the other, it's brought down. So you're trying to go to sleep. You say the Shema, and then you can't fall asleep. You can say the Shema again. You can say the Shema many times. I don't know if I spoke to someone who was talking to me about it. But that's because you're not saying it right after boom boom. Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad. You're saying that there's spaces in the time between the time you said the Shema Yisrael and then you can't fall asleep. Now again you're saying the Shema Yisrael. It's it's a pasuk from the Torah. But to say Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad, that we will not go ahead and say it right after immediately one right after the other. But it might look like you're talking. There's two different gods. You're talking to this God. Shema Yisrael, that Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Shema Yisrael Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So that's just wanted to clarify that point. The only issue is if it's done right after another. Ein Posim. Now we're discussing. We mentioned about they would be blowing the trumpet by the Simchat Beit HaShoeva. Part of the procession of the drawing of the water at certain points, at certain parts, they would blow the trumpets. And now the Gemara is going to discuss what was this general story in the Beit HaMikdash regarding blowing of trumpets, and what was the minimum amount of trumpet blasts that they had in one day, and what was the maximum that they had in one day. So that's what our Mishnah is going to focus on right now. Ein Posim me-21 kiyot b'mikdash. Every day, the Beit HaMikdash, there was a minimum of 21 sounds of these trumpets that were blown. There was a minimum of 21. Ve'ein mosifin al arba'im u'shmoneh. You cannot add. There was never a day. They never did more than 48 blasts. Now, when we say 48 blasts, that means a tekiah is considered one. And a truah, then a truah sound is a very big question. What is a truah? Is a truah what we call, usually we call, that's what we call a truah. Now, but really, a truah sound is a breaking sound. And there was a question of what is the way that the breaking sound is supposed to be said? Is the breaking sound what we call trua or is it trua what we call a shvarim? Tu, or is it trua a combo? Is shvarim what we call shvarim trua? Tu. So there's a whole question, what is a trua? So because of the question, we do all three. That's why you notice we do the what we call shvarim, we do what we call trua, we do a combo of shvarim and trua. Is that clear, everybody? So whatever that sound of trua is, but that's counted as one sound, the trua. You know, it might have 9 notes to it, a minimum, or it might have 3, 2, but or a combo, but that's considered one sound. So in the Beit HaMikdash, good morning, they ain't potchim esrim va'achat. They did not have less than 21 blasts of the trumpets in the Mikdash, and not more than we said than 48. It was not more than 48 blasts of the trumpets, and the order was Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah. Now let's see how the Mishnah says. B'chol yom, how many blows of the trumpets do we have every day? How many sounds of the trumpets do we have every day in the Beit HaMikdash? Esrim v'achat tekiah b'mikdash. There was 21. Just I like the number 21. Why do I like the number 21? Because a very famous pasuk. Ach tov v'chesed yidufuni kol yemei chayai. Ach aleph chaf is what? 21. So there was 21. I'm not sure if it has any connection to the 21 blasts in Beit HaMikdash, but I like that number of 21. It says there. By the way, you know what Hashem's favorite number is? Everybody knows what God's favorite number is. The Medrash says God's favorite number is 7. Simply, people say the lucky 7, right? But God's favorite number is 7. There's so many things in Judaism that have to do with what? 7. You can think about how many things have to do with 7. It's full, chock full of 7. Now we're describing the 21 blasts of the trumpets that were blown every day. Shalosh lepsichat sharim. 3 sounds of a tekiah, trua, tekiah, for the opening of the gates of the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash. Now, this blowing, the way the commentary over here says, is not really, it's not a blowing that was an obligatory blowing from the Torah. There are certain blowings that we'll see that you have to blow from the Torah. The Torah says when you bring the korban, you bring the olah, we're going to see how when you bring the burnt offering every morning and every afternoon, that blowing is mandated from the Torah. There's a biblical mandate, biblical obligation of blowing the trumpet. But this blowing of the opening of the gates is sign that it's that we're coming. The work day has begun, and everybody should come to their place. We need Eliyahu to come to his place. We need David to come to his place, and the Yisrael also have to come to their place. Everybody has their place. The Yisrael, the Jewish people who are not going to leave, they would pray that the korban should be accepted. We have Yisrael, Kohanim. You know, you have everyone in their place, Levim, B'duchanam, Kohanim, everyone, where everyone had their place that they needed to stand and to be at in the Beit HaMikdash. So the first 3 sounds were it's time to go to work. It's like the bell in a school. If you want to say the bell rings, right, Mr. Haber, Shari Torah, it's time to learn Torah. The day has begun. So therefore, that's what they had. The Chatzotrot, they blew these trumpets. It's time, everybody, let's go. Everyone get to where you have to be. right? We got to get started. We got work to be done in the Beit HaMikdash. Those were the first three. Then we have biblical blowings of 9. V'teisha l'tamid shel shachar. The morning tamid, the morning offering, the daily morning offering, which was called the tamid in the morning, and our prayers, our shachrit, corresponds to that korban. When they would bring the korban, when David would bring the korban, the Kohen would bring the korban, and they would pour the wine on the mizbeah, the wine that accompanied the korban. Over there, then the Levium would be singing, and the Levium would be singing, and they would blow these trumpets during the song of the Levium. When the song, Ralph, we got Ralph on the screen here. The song would be broken up into 3 parts. After each part, we say every day, Hashir Shaya Leviim Omrim Beit HaMikdash. Right? After we say towards the end of the day, the song that the Leviim sang in the Beit HaMikdash. And that's in the song that they sang. Every day they had a different song. And the song that they sang in the Beit HaMikdash was broken up into 3 parts. And at the end of each part, the Leviim would pause, and the Kohanim would blow how do you like that, David? The Kohanim would blow these 3 blasts. And there was 3 intervals, 3 times. It was a total of 9. And the people would bow down to Hashem at each time. Now, the Mishnah continues, and the Teishel Tamishal Ben Abayim. And you also had 9 in the afternoon. The same thing. They sung the song in the afternoon, the Leviim. At 3 different times we stopped, blow the trumpets. So we got 9 in the morning, 9 in the afternoon, you got 18, and 3 for the opening of the gates. So that's what you got, you're 21. Musafin, but when there was a Korban Musaf, let's say on Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, so we got another song for the Musaf. We got another song that the Levium sang, and we got another 9 blows as a result of that. So therefore, Hayamosifin Teisha, they added another 9. We'll be continued tomorrow. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day. Thank you all for coming. What a beautiful crowd. Thank you for joining us. All the best, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Have a great day. Pleasure. Yeah, I'll tell you what I said. Ralph, take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye, Ralph. Take care, Mr. Haber. Mr. Haber, just want to take I'll take care of Adam over here. Here go to the machine. If you tell somebody something, you got to figure out how it's adapted. Give it a cut, give it a trim. To you, respectful, because you know the situation personally. So you got to try to say, okay, I heard this idea. Now, how do I tailor it to this